being the coordinator of gender studies and conflict studies. So we are doing the interview series with on about different conflict existing in the world. We have done three event on Palestinian-Israeli conflict. But this is our fourth event in the series of conflict study, and our today's event is about Russia-Ukraine war. And so Russia-Ukraine war is not a new one. It was one, as we see, Russia and Ukraine were once part of the same land, which was USSR, that is Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. But with the disintegration of USSR in 1991, they became a different nation. It is not that Russia-Ukraine war began in 2021, but it started in February 2014. Following Ukraine Revolution of Dignity, Russia occupied and annexed Crimea from Ukraine and supported pro-Russian separatists who began fighting Ukrainian military in the Donbas war. These first 8 years of conflict also included naval incident and cyber warfare. In February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine and began occupying more of the country. Started the biggest conflict in Europe since World War II. The war has resulted in the refugee crisis and tenth of thousands of deaths, and it is still going on. There is no end to this war. So we have a guest who is an eyewitness of this war, who has worked there when the war was still going on, and he is an eyewitness, and he is none other than Abhishek Upadhyay. I'm fortunate to have him as my batchmate. So let me introduce him as first. Abhishek Upadhyay has been in the field of journalism for the last 22 years and has worked in the reputed news agencies like ABP News, TV9, Bharatvarsh, India TV, Dainik Bhaskar, Network 18, and Amar Ujala. Currently, he is working as an independent journalist. In 2009, he received the prestigious Ramnath Goenka Award in the year 20. And in the year 2020, he was the first reporter from India to cover Armenian Azerbaijan war. He was also the first reporter to cover Russia-Ukraine war. He has covered the Israel-Hamas war and the Syrian conflict from ground zero for ABPV News. He has covered the visits of Prime Minister and Foreign Minister to many countries like America, Canada, France, Israel, Japan, Singapore, Pakistan, and Tajikistan. In 2009, he has a ground coverage from Bali, Indonesia during the Chota Rajan arrest, which was a very crucial incident in the in India's history. He has covered many international diplomatic forum like SCO Summit from Samarkand, Uzbekistan, and QUAD Summit from Tokyo, Japan. He did coverage of United Nations General Assembly from New York. He is continuous coverage of Kashmir for a decade, and there are more accolade to his decade. There are more work. So, cutting it short, let me introduce our viewer, Gohar Pirzada. So, he will be interviewing Abhishek Upadhyay. So, let me introduce Gohar Pirzada. Pirzada Gohar Rasool is a Delhi-based broadcast journalist. Born and brought up in Srinagar, Kashmir, he completed his education from AMU Aligarh. He has been associated with several television channels like Network 18, Sahara Samay, Times Group, and other. He is an astute professional offering insightful exposure across entire spectrum of activities involved in reporting, editing, scripting, news planning, and content writing. Have over 14 years of extensive experience in media related roles and have delivered successfully with a healthy career growth. He possesses good research and documentation expertise with excellent verbal and written communication skill. He also possesses good organizational and presentation ability, sound technical knowledge with experience in programming, editing, reporting, and directing daily news bulletin. He is also GPLT news. He is also GPLT ambassador, that is Global Peace Let's Talk. So welcome Abhishek Upadhyay and all my teammate, GPLT teammate. Let us begin with Gohar sir. Please proceed with your questions.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Abhishek, Dr.
Hello, sir.
Shaminaz, Tarek, Nikki, hi, Errol Giza, and Reverend Yuval Bhatti. whom I can see on my screen. I was a bit late in joining because it was the last Friday of Ramadan, and there are some more, a bit of more religious exercises, activities. So I was a bit late in joining. Hi. So starting with Abhishek. Hi, Abhishek. How have you been?
I'm all well, Gaur Saab. All well.
That's great. That's great. So you are right now. You are in Delhi. I'm in
I'm in
Srinagar.
Delhi. Yes, yes, I'm
I
in
had to
Delhi.
travel to
You are in
Srinagar.
Srinagar.
Yes, right now I'm in Srinagar. I had to travel to Srinagar for the festival. Anyways,
Right.
so to begin with, since you have covered the Russia-Ukraine war, we would like to know your first-hand experience about on the war itself. To begin with.
Yes, exactly. I was the first Indian journalist who reached Ukraine to cover this war, and I reached there 10 days in advance when there was some apprehensions that there is going to be a war between Russia and Ukraine, and Russian forces are, in fact, they are just stationed on the border of the Ukraine, and basically they are near Kharkiv, they are near the Donbass, and they can make naval attacks on Black Sea areas. So I went there 10 days in advance because there were apprehension then war will take place. So I was when I reached in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. It was such a beautiful city. Uh, uh, Everywhere people are so energetic and everything was normal. I visited Kiev. I visited Kharkiv. I also visited Donbass before the war started. I wore all those areas which were later badly affected by war. And if I compare the situation when the war was not started and when the war broke out, it was a totally different scenario. There was life, the great Ukrainian culture, and there is a great Indian connection. I think more than 25,000 Indian students they were studying there in medical profession. So I met them. In fact, just on the border side in Donbass, in Lugansk area, Lugansk is just on the border of the Russia and Ukraine in Donbass area. I still recall, there was a Lugansk Medical University where Indian students were studying at that time. And this was a time when Indian embassy has given the warning that all Indian students should immediately leave. But they were so assured that there is not going to be any war. So they were just continuing their studies. I met them. So I saw both aspects of this pre-war era and post-war era, and during the war also. In fact, I still recall I went to those places where there was mass grave incidents, mass grave.
So
Bucha.
can you share a particularly memorable or a challenging experience you had while reporting on this conflict?
Exactly. I think the day when it started, then I was traveling in a bus from Kharkiv to Black Sea, towards Black Sea.
Okay.
So, in the meantime, I got the information. My channel assignment team they told me that Russia has attacked on Ukraine. So it was anticipated, but in fact, despite all anticipation, there was some confusion that at the last moment any peace deal may take place and it will not happen. But finally, it happened. And when I reached near Black Sea, I still recall that they were just firing missile on all the residential areas near Black Sea. And I visited those
Okay.
places, and I saw the lines of people. They were just getting out of their home and trying to get shelter in any safe place, and there was so much panic. And I'm again telling you, there is a strong Indian connection. So we are getting the calls from different Indian students that how to get out of this situation, because there in that scenario there were no transport available besides the train. Only trains were running and there was no transport, and they were also taken aback. They was not as I'm telling you that despite all the warnings, CIA was issuing the warning, different intelligence agencies were saying that there is going to be a war, but people were very much assured that it is not possible that a full-scale war can take place. They were totally assured. So when Russia all of a sudden started bombing the cities of Ukraine and they have launched missiles, so there was a chaos everywhere, chaos. And I still recall that every time we were stationed, when we were stationed in the hotels, every time at every 10 minutes we were so accustomed of the war sirens blaring everywhere, and whenever there is a siren, we observe that people were.
How Abhishek, how did you ensure your safety, like reporting from the front lines? How was it like reporting from the front lines, and how did you ensure you are safe?
Honestly, I tell you that I couldn't do anything specific to save myself. It was all, if I am thief, so I'm a religious person. So I say that so it's only a grace of God. I couldn't do nothing at that time because it was. I'm telling you, there are two kinds of war. In any conflict zone, places are identified because they attack on some military zone. Sometimes they attack on military zone. Sometimes they target the industrial zone. Sometimes they target the oil depot. But here it was so scattered. You are not assured where they will launch a missile. There was no place where there was the guarantee of your safety and security. So there was uh, no way out so that you can save yourself and you can claim that look, I took this precaution, so I am alive.
Did you have any near to death experience? Let's say near to death experience like that. You felt that now it's over, or there is bombing and missiles coming all over.
Yes, yes, it happened when I was in Kharkiv, and I must tell you, there was a situation so grave in Kharkiv that I left Kiev towards Kharkiv when the war was very intense. So the train was totally empty. There was no person. I was alone person in the entire team. I along with my camera person who were traveling from Kiev towards Kharkiv, and the train which were leaving Kharkiv, it was so full. Means you can say that the entire city of Kharkiv, they were just looking for some means to leave the Kharkiv. I went Kharkiv in that situation when there was so much chaos and so much threat to life. So when I reached Kharkiv, then there was indiscriminate bombing there in Kharkiv, indiscriminate bombing. So when I reached, I still remember when I reached the administrative building of Kharkiv. At the same time, missiles were fired because Kharkiv is just on the border of Russia. So they fired missile, and in my just before my eyes, I saw that the administrative building was totally damaged, and the Ukrainian military, they were just swung into action and they surrounded it and tried to evacuate people because all the important their their mayor and all the important officials, they were stationed in that administrative building which they targeted, and I was there because there was there was security alert to few places. The places are very important places where there was the all the security establishments, they were stationed there. So it happened just before our eyes, and when I left that administrative building, and I thought I should also visit the residential places, residential apartments in such situations. So I saw with my bare eyes that they were also targeting the residential places, and people were coming out of their places, and they were just rushing towards the tunnel means the metro was the safest place in that situation. So we also
Okay.
rushed towards metro, and I when I reached in the metro, then I found that people were staying there since 3 4 days. They were staying in metro. Anybody who comes out of metro, there was no guarantee he will be alive. They were just bombing indiscriminately, and there was nothing, no place to hide, and nobody. You can't call anyone. You can't press any emergency button in that situation. So this
Did
happened
you
in front of my
feel Abhishek? Did you feel scared at any moment of the reporting?
Yes, I must tell you the two places, Bucha and Irpin. This was in the north of Kiev. Bucha and Irpin are those places where mass graves were discovered, and it drew the attention of the entire world community. There were mass graves. So I was in Bucha and Irpin when Russia was advancing inside the Bucha and Irpin, and there was a 60 kilometer long totally it was surrounded by the Russian military. No, I should not say militia, it was military because there was no militia there. So they surrounded Kiev. So I was in Bucha and Irpin, and at that time I saw that people was running out of these two towns. They were just very close to Kiev, and buses were lined up at the outskirts of those towns. People were just sitting in the bus, and they were taking them to the safer location. At that time, they started bombing. They started firing missiles, and uh, in front of my eyes, I saw that it was a totally life-threatening experience because had it was just I think 100 meter away from my place, there was some detonation 100 meters
Okay.
away, and I was lucky that I was 100 meters safe distance, otherwise I could also have been killed. So there was these kind of incidents, and I must tell you the most threatening atmosphere was in the matter that there was no uh, security establishment, there was no security protocol that you can knock at that time. You can knock, no security protocol, because the Ukraine has, there was a direction, a government direction in Ukraine that anybody from 18 years to 60 years, they can't leave Ukraine, any male person. All the female and children and old age person, they were permitted to leave. So what happened? The women left, children along with them left, old age
So
people
that's
left.
the overall humanitarian situation you have witnessed, and how the civilians are being affected, right?
Yes, yes. So what happened then? They all left. Then they have given the
Sorry.
responsibility of guarding the city to the common citizen of Kiev. Common citizen. I saw they were holding Kalashnikov rifle, and they were just inquiring about each and every civilians. We were from outside. We were Indian, so they were just whenever they find us, then they get all the kind of security check. They were not authorized, but in that situation they were the official police force. They were unofficial but official police force. So you can't
What do you mean by official but unofficial? I couldn't get that. We couldn't get that. Can you please elaborate? What's
yes,
official but
exactly.
unofficial?
I tell you, because they were given the Kalashnikov rifles and other ammunitions from the government. Government issued all the weapons and also the petrol bomb. Government has
So
distributed it among the civilians.
They were civilians who had been recruited by the government or the army of Ukraine to
Not
to
recruited,
to.
not recruited, not recruited, not recruited. They were not recruited. That I am trying to tell. They were not recruited. At the on a very urgent level, the arms were distributed among them, and those who can handle arms, they have been given the rifles. Those who couldn't handle, they should have been they were given the petrol bombs. And those who can't they were not at all expert in the handling of weapon and ammunitions, then they were guarding the checkpoints. So on the urgent note, they have deployed their civilians into this into this war front at that time. So nobody was safe at that time because they were just checking it in their own manner. And if they suspect that we were snooping and we were passing information to Russia, if they suspect it, then they were full authority to shoot anytime. So there was many types of danger at that time. Not only the bombing by Russia. There were
How many,
internal
how many,
dangers
how
also.
many, how many media persons were around with you all the time? As in, how many people you did cover that conflict?
There was there were journalists from different countries, journalists from USA, even journalists from. I also met journalists from Taiwan. You will be surprised
Okay.
because nobody expected such a full-scale war in this era. So people came, journalists came from different parts, and from India also. I think almost every channel sent their reporters. I was the first to reach there, but later I was joined by several reporters. But there was no such group moving together because you can't move together. Nobody knows what is happening, and there were only 2 and 3 hotels that were functional. All hotels were shut. I got refused in a private home. We requested them, and because people had already left Kiev, so there was some space. So we requested them, and they gave us accommodation. But it was very difficult. You can't move together. You are not assured once you leave your home and go to cover the war, you will return in the evening. There was no surety at the time.
How did you conduct interviews or gather information? And how did you, I would say, like to ask, is the language barrier? How did you cope up with the language barrier, or do you know the language?
No, no, no. I was not aware that the language was a challenge. But there was two things. Because there were foreign journalists also. So if there is any such problem, and foreign journalists, maximum foreign journalists, they were assisted by the local journalists, and local journalists who were bilingual. They knew English very well. So there were when we stuck in such a situation, then we sought help from them, and when there was no one to help, then there was Google Translator. We just write in the English and translate in the Ukrainian and show it to the local
Okay.
people, so they understand, and they also do the same. They write in Ukrainian, and we translate into the English. So this was somehow makeshift arrangement which we did.
How did you conduct interviews and or gather information?
Look, in any war situation, the location is very important because we are from outside, so we don't have any local connect. But locations are very important. If we know the location where there is war-like situation, where action is taking place, we should reach. Our first priority is to reach at those places, at those front lines. Once you reach there, then everything is before your eyes. You get everything, all the visuals and all the tales of the local people who are residing there. Even at that situation, the Ukraine military, they also gave interview, because there were two kind of war. One, the war with arms and ammunition, and the second was the information war. So they better understood that the world should know the actual ground report. They must know that who is the aggressor and who is the victim. So they were trained. I think they had some message. So whenever we approached the Ukrainian military, then any of their officer who can speak English, then they assisted us, and then they gave their interviews, and they also briefed us about the situation.
How have you seen this war impacting Ukraine's infrastructure, economy, or the social fabric?
It has, I think, totally destroyed Ukraine. I told you, Gaur Saab, that I witnessed this war before it started. I reached there 10 days in advance, and I saw the Ukraine after the war culminated. So I witnessed both sides of Ukraine. So Ukraine was such a great. Ukraine is such a great country. I should not say it was a great country, but it was full of resources. It was full of the public life, and I told you the medical connection. The Ukraine medical universities, they are very famous, and there were the students intake not from India but from Europe. In fact, the neighboring Poland, the students came in Ukraine to get the medical education. So they were Ukraine was just you can say that it was a very I found it as a very developed country. And after the war started, I saw myself that the all the, you can say, the it was totally no fly zone. Only trains were running. You can't the roads. So there was such a good situation of infrastructure in Ukraine, but infrastructure was totally demolished. Russia targeted the oil depot of Ukraine, the electricity depot of Ukraine. In fact, the uranium depots they also targeted. So it was a selective targeting. In fact, the food grains, the Ukraine exports food grains.
How
So
did
they
it,
also
this is what I was going to ask you, how did it affect the essentials? How were the essentials like the basic food grains or other things, the milk, baby foods, how were they managed?
basically, there was a route from Poland via Lviv. Lviv is I think the western gateway of Ukraine. From Poland, you enter Lviv, and from Lviv you can enter Poland. So Poland was their only safe zone. So all essential supplies, all the military supplies, the route was Poland. So Poland route was functional. In fact, in in later days, Russia also targeted Poland and they tried to choke the supply line, but they were not successful. So Poland line, this was the only you can the route of essential supplies. And while we were in Kiev or Kharkiv or Donbass, so for our daily needs, there were some supermarkets. So they open it. They sometimes for 2 hours and 3 hours they open it, and it was people in the neighborhood, people in the vicinity, they know it that the shop is going to open from this hour to this hour. So during that period, people throng to those supermarkets and they get all the essentials. So there was some,
And
you can
it must
say,
have been extremely crowdy that time, the markets.
yeah, exactly. It was very crowdy, and also it was very dangerous, because what happens that when there is a congregation of people at a such place, when there are so many peoples who have assimilated on a particular zone, that then that zone was very sensitive. It was prone to attacks. So this was also a sort of danger, that when you visit at any place and it was buzzing with people, so then it is a danger zone. So that was also a sort of
Okay.
danger, that any time Russia can target it.
Right. So before throwing more questions to Abhishek, is there anyone who would like to ask Abhishek? Anyone on board who would like to ask Abhishek anything? In the
I
meantime, I'll
want to
check
ask.
the chat. In the meantime, I'll check the chats if somebody has posted anything for Abhishek. Yeah, please, Shaminaz, please continue, Dr. Shaminaz.
Abhishek, please narrate the one incident when you were on live on news, and then there was an attack. There was an explosion at the back.
Yes, exactly. At the time, I was near the Irpin. I told you, Stamina's Irpin was the place, Irpin along with Bucha, where mass graves were discovered after I think, after Russia vacated those areas, there were mass graves. So at the time, I was in Irpin, and I went there. I was doing live, and for the purpose of safety, I got a safer place. I think it was the second floor of an apartment. I was doing my live, and at that very time they fired missile, and it just exploded just behind me. And my cameraman, he alerted me, look, be aware, and there is firing and there is explosion. He alerted me. So when I looked back, I saw that it was just means, I can say that it was very close. It was very close, and they fired it, and it was totally grace of God that we were a bit distanced from that place when where they struck. Otherwise, anything can happen at that time. So it happened. Yes.
And Abhishek, I also watched a video of yours which you posted on Facebook about an Ukrainian driver. You had a very
Yeah.
good time with him. He knew Indian songs also. No? You used to have a great time with him.
Yes, exactly. And this driver, his name is Anton, and I
Hmm.
met him in Kharkiv, and he was of great help. He was full of the nationalistic feeling. And I met him before the war started, and I requested him that take me to Donbass. Donbass was the area which Russia invaded first. So I requested him to take me to the Donbass, and he took me to Donbass. It was risky, but he told me that I will take this risk for the sake of my country, and I want that you should show to the outer world the real situation of my country. They must know that we are being targeted. They must know that we are innocent. They must know that Russia is the aggressor. So he said that it is risky and nobody was ready to go in the Donbass area. But he agreed, and he also did not charge much money. He charged, but it was very average money. He would have charged a big time money because of entering in the war zone. But he took us. And when we entered in Donbass along with him in that war zone, then he also took care of me that you should go this way, you should not go that way, that is dangerous. Every time he was with me, every time. He was a driver, he would have been very much comfortable in the car, but whenever I left the car and I went towards the front line, he came with me, so that there should not be any problem to me. And because he was local, he can converse in the local language. So every time he worked as a translator, he worked as a driver, he worked as a friend. So it was, I think, a totally blessing that I got him.
And Abhishek, tell me one thing. Russia has always been an Indian ally. So, and this is quite clear to everybody. So, did you find any hostility in behavior of Ukrainian authority towards you being an Indian?
No. On the opposite, I found much cooperation from Ukraine authority. They were very sympathetic towards me. Particularly, I am telling you my experience. They were very sympathetic. And once, what happened that as I told, as I was telling Gohar Saab, that the Ukrainian civilian people, they were deployed at almost all checkpoints inside the city. And the front line, Ukrainian army was tackling the Russian army, but in the city area, all checkpoints were occupied by the Ukrainian civilian population. So once it happened that they stopped me, and they did not know English, they only knew Ukrainian. I was just accompanied by my camera person. There was no local person with me, so there was no way to convey anything. And they were just asking why you are here, why you are telling that we are a journalist and all these things. They couldn't understand. Finally it struck to me, and I showed them my passport, and I told India, I am from India. Then they got it, and they say, oh, India, from India. Okay. Then they smiled and said, okay, go, and they allowed me to go. So there was a sort of means sympathy for India. And there was a reason. I told you there were 25,000 Indian students. They were studying in Ukraine, and their economy was in a way dependent for not a very you can say not on a very large scale, but the Indian students were also a source of revenue, and there was also cultural exchanges. So they took care of us. There was no animosity, there was no enmity, there was no negativity that we found there.
Abhishek, there
Abhishek,
is a saying that war are fought on women bodies. Do you think that Ukrainian women or Russian women have suffered a lot during the war? It is the women who always suffer massively when a war occurs.
Exactly, you are absolutely correct, and we saw it. And as I told that all the women folks and the children, they were just leaving from Kiev, Kharkiv, Lviv, and leaving towards Poland. And I saw tears in their eyes because they were just leaving their male counterparts. There was a standing instruction that nobody from the age group of 18 up to 60 years, they can't leave the country. So there was, I think there was uh, uh, a very difficult situation. They were very of about their life, the lives of their children, and also they were leaving their husband, they were leaving their father, they were leaving their son if he is older than 18 years, and they were not sure that when they will return, they will find them. So it was a kind of uh, 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 mental pressure. It was a physical pressure. So they suffered badly. There is no doubt.
All the neighboring country, whether it was Poland or Greece, they have supported Ukrainian a lot during this refugee crisis of the Ukraine.
Yes, exactly. In fact, Poland, Poland, in the initial days, Hungary also supported. Later, they also took a different turn. But in fact, small country like Moldova, they supported. These are the neighboring countries, and the European Union, the France, Germany, they all supported. And I must tell you the very important thing. In Poland, I myself saw that people gave them, all the population who are fleeing Ukraine, and they were coming into the Poland. People gave them refuge in their homes, and they arranged all their daily needs, their food, shelter. In fact, they also gave them money, and there were camps inside Poland. There were so many camps, so many NGOs, they came forward, so many international organizations, they helped, and they gave them refuge, they gave them shelter, they gave them food, milk. So it was, there was two opposite scenario. There was a war, and there was a flood of the emotional attachment and the human assistance, which I saw on ground. So there were two kind of world, good and bad together.
One last question from my side. Abhishek, you have been a war journalist. You have covered Russia-Ukraine war, Azerbaijan, Armenian war, Syrian war, Israel-Palestinian war. Do you think war journalism is easier than the political journalism in India nowadays?
Look, it's I think not matter of not the criteria of easy or difficult, because it's all about inclination. If you have inclination in war journalism, then you get every moment you get an unexpected situation. You are faced with the challenging situation in war journalism. In political journalism, you need political insight, you need political connection, you get the story. But in war journalism, you don't have any connection, you don't have any contact, and you don't know what is going to happen with you. So it's a totally different situation, but it's very risky. On this front, I agree with you that the war journalism is very risky. And
Abhishek, both are risky. Both are risky.
yeah, both are
Even
risky.
political.
Yes, both are risky. I agree, but here risk is immediate.
Think
In
about my
political
state.
journalism, which state?
Our state, we both belong to same state, hai na?
Yeah, exactly. I admit political journalism is also risky, but their risk is immediate. Here it takes time. If the repercussion comes, it comes in a week, it comes in a month, but their bombs fall all of a sudden, and you don't know what is going to happen.
Okay, so Abhishek, what role does international community play in supporting the Ukrainians, the general masses of Ukraine?
They helped a lot. I witnessed it. There was a flow of supplies, and the food supply, the medical needs.
From
International
which
community.
countries? Which countries, particularly which countries?
Particularly on the first hand, the European countries,
Okay.
be it Poland, be it Hungary, be it Czechoslovakia, be it Romania, Moldova, the Germany provided a great humanitarian assistance. In the France, they also provided. So they provided for it, and because of their support, Ukraine survived this war for 3 years. Because of their support only, not only for the military support, they survived. Ukraine survived. Ukraine survived that because there was a humanitarian support of a great scale, a very great scale. So that Ukraine owe to these countries.
Are there any myths or misconceptions or misinformation that has been spread about this war that you would like to dispel?
Means there was one which I found, there was one misconception it and which we witnessed that uh, I felt that this war could have been avoided. It was not means there are the world is divided into two different tangent. On the one level, people accuse Russia. On the other level, people accuse Ukraine. There are two opposite opinions in this on this note. But I tell you that it could have been avoided. When I was there, we felt it could have been avoided, and because what I gathered from the ground, that Ukraine and Russia, I think both were manipulated in this war by this Western power and all the so-called developed countries. They were manipulated, and I tell you, it is all the it might be a big you can say conspiracy, you can say strategy of those companies, those multinational companies who are in this arms and ammunition business, because Ukraine fought Russia, and it was supported by entire world community, almost all world community. So they gave all sort of military supply, and there was a war happened. But Ukraine was the victim. In fact, Russia also suffered, but there was some external interest that played a very crucial role. This I can say.
Okay, what message do you think is most important for the global audience to understand about this conflict, the Russia-Ukraine conflict?
I think the most important message is that any nation, be it Ukraine or Russia, they must first guard their national interest. They should not be part of any global campaign, or any, you can say, uh, they should not be part of any global outrage, or you can say any global union. They should not be part. The national interest should be supreme, and had Russia and Ukraine both cared about their individual national interests, this war should have been avoided. I think that, as I told you, there are many external interests. They played a very crucial role. Russia and Ukraine fought each other, and it was the impact. There was worldwide impact, and there were so many countries in the world who were directly, who were the biggest beneficiary of this war. So this should have been avoided. Each and every country, if it tries to safeguard its own interest in a way that any external forces should not reap benefit out of it, then they can avoid it. So this was, I think, this is a message all nations should understand.
Okay, so a last question from my end. Can you share, would you like to share any personal story or any of yourself or any Ukrainian civilian you have met and how they have been affected, or anything else you would like to share from your end?
One thing I want to share, that there was a which I told you earlier, that there was the loss of trust, and there was a suspicions everywhere. What kind of impact any war gives, any war leaves on the social fabric of a country, which I witnessed. We were staying in our hotel. I still recount it. When all of a sudden some Ukrainian intelligence personnel they entered in our hotel and they took us on the gunpoint, me along with my camera person, and we were faced against the wall, and they started searching all our equipments and everything. There was some kind of suspicion, or they got the information that these foreign journalists they might be passing information to Russia, but there was nothing. There was no evidence on ground, so they checked everything right from our mobile and everything, all our camera equipment. They also uh, showed every footage which we shot in different area of Ukraine. Then they took us in their intelligence headquarters. For 4 hours we were interrogated there for 4 hours and for no reason. As I'm telling you that if there is any evidence, if somebody has planted something inside my hotel room and any military comes and it finds that implant in my room, then they can interrogate me for 4 hours. They found nothing, just on a sort of suspicion, a sort of there was some information. I was not aware about the information. They interrogated us for 4 hours continuously, and that too at gunpoint. And finally, when they found nothing, then they left us. Then I told them, then please call my hotel and tell the
What
manager
was it?
that we are
What
not
was
the
that
traitors.
interrogation like? Abhishek, what was that interrogation like? Was it torturous or was it just verbal or something physical?
No, it was not torturous. It's mentally torturous because we are totally blind towards the outcome of this interrogation. What will happen, because they can shoot anytime. I told you there was no governance on the ground. Everybody was empowered to take the action which he or she deems fit in the interest of his or her country. So, at the outcome of interrogation, they can shoot if they believe that we are traitors, if they believe that we are passing information to Russia. So, for 4 hours, we were faced against the wall, and they were continuously questioning us: how you reached here? Did you have interaction with any Russian people? If in your reporting period, entire 15-20 years, did you met any Russian person? Do you know any Russian person? How do you feel about Russia? So you are continuing giving their answers. And they took me and my camera person both in the different rooms. They kept us and they were interrogating us, and then the outcome of the interrogation they were matching it, that there was any sort of anomaly, any sort of the difference between what I am telling and between what my cameraman was telling to them. So at any point of time, if they would
So,
have
so this
believed.
this this must have happened with most of the media persons that were covering the conflict.
Yes, it happened, but not, I don't remember that in a such way it would have happened. There were different ways. For example, if they you are in the reporting in the front line, it happened with many journalists. You were reporting in the front line and they just pounced on you, and they just took your camera and you took your mic and they made you sit there for 2 hours, and they were just interrogating you for 2 hours. They were trying to know what you have are shooting here, if where you the information you're passing it to your country, or you're passing to any other country. Now you Gaur Saab, you think it in such a way that if you are an external affair correspondent and if you have connection in many countries, any person who is covering the external affair, he might have connection in Russia, he might have connection in Britain, he might have connection in China, he might have connection in North Korea. If you have so many numbers in your mobile, fortunately, I was not having such numbers because I didn't cover the External Affairs Ministry as a beat. If you are having these numbers in your mobile, then you are in our suspicion list, and they can take action whatever they believe is genuine. So this was the risk.
So you were interrogated for continuously for 4 hours and
Yes.
without food and water, or were they courteous enough to offer you some refreshments or water for that matter?
Water. We demanded water and they gave. And when the interrogation ended and they found nothing, then they asked, "You can go." Then I smiled and I said to them, "Can you get me a cup of coffee? I am so tired of your interrogation." Then they smiled and then they offered us coffee. And then I told him,
Hmm.
"Then please call my manager, hotel manager, because you are leaving us here. But when I will reach in my hotel, he will shoot me because you took me in front of his eyes." So he is also thinking that I am a traitor. So please, so I took his precaution. I told them, now you call the office, my manager, and tell him that it was the case of mistaken identity. Then he called and he briefed him also. Then we came in my hotel, and the manager he was standing outside of the hotel, and he also apologized that I was not aware. So these kind of situations we have to
That's great,
face.
Abhishek. We salute your dedication and your hard. You've done a good job, very good job,
Thank you,
and
Varsa.
your
Thank
dedication
you.
and your honesty. Thank you so much for the day. I think we are done. Dr.
Yes.
Shaminaz, over to you.
Yes, yes. Abhishek, hearing this all these incidents is so horrifying, and it's really requires a courage to be witness of war. Means we are just hearing some visual from you, and it is so horrifying to witness a war. It's really a very means courageous task, and really, war journalism is a very difficult task. We have a senior person from Turkey, Tariq Gunarsar sir. He wished to ask some question. Tariq sir, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Um, Dear friend, have you written all these, your war correspondence experience, a series of articles, memoirs, are available as a book or will be available as a book? I hope so.
Yes, Mr. Tariq, and I have written it, and I have written a book on this. But unfortunately, the book is in Hindi, our national language, and I will get it translated very soon. And with the help of Dr. Swaminaz, I will ensure that you find it. I will ensure it.
Yes, because English is the global language now,
Yeah,
and
exactly,
yeah,
exactly, exactly.
wonderful.
I will get it translated very soon.
And also, some parts of your experience, which you mentioned, I'm a person of theater and cinema at the same time, literature, etc. It is possible to get together and prepare brief, like anecdotal, short plays. And for example, that interrogation, I could do that interrogation with you, as an
Yes,
actor. We could act that.
right.
So such, it may be very interesting and it will draw attention. Such things can be very
Yes.
helpful.
No
Thank you
doubt,
for
no
that,
doubt.
Tarak. Thank you, Tarak. I think that's a great idea. Thank you for that.
And
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I acknowledge it, and I must tell you that I also have been a theater artist, and also did the play by
Sure.
Samuel Beckett's "Waiting for Godot."
I
So
translated that into Turkish.
Yeah.
I translated
yes.
for Godot into
Part
Turkish.
in
Oh,
Waiting for
great,
Godot.
great,
It
great.
is a Oscar drama. We all like it a lot.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. What a great coincidence. So I acted,
Yeah.
and I was there is a character Lucky, who is the
Oh,
servant
yeah.
of Pozdo.
Okay.
So I
Abhishek.
played the role of Lucky in this the character of Lucky in this
Yeah.
epic play.
We have the Minister of Tourism here. I hope that he can hear me. Can you hear me? Our Minister of Tourism, can you hear me?
Yes, 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 madam. I can.
No,
Okay.
Institute of Tourism.
No, she's
Okay.
addressing to someone. She's addressing to someone by the name
Yeah,
of
I would have
tourism.
liked
Okay.
to see
Okay.
that he can ask you a question, but
Institute of
I'm just
Tourism.
Okay.
yeah, I'm just trying to catch his link here. Okay, so give me a minute. But Abhishek, I just want to say thank you so much. With Global Peace Let Talk, we work with many young people. We've got a youth group. And then we work with people that are in communities that are in such extreme conflict, like the current situation in Rwanda and the situation in Sudan and the situation in the DR Congo. So all of those are part of Global Peace Let Talk, and it's extremely heartbreaking and difficult to try and support a sense of calmness, and give people hope. That's the biggest challenge, is to be able to say to those people, don't give up. So how do you tell somebody don't give up when their whole house has been blown up, when their children have been killed? It's difficult. So we have to find a way to be able to talk more about conflict and experiences in conflict. And I think you could be a really good asset in that. So I would really appreciate it if you would. We'll talk after this because there's
Sure, madam.
other people that want to share, but I'm sure that people will appreciate having you in a group that can share your experience and say, don't give up. There's always hope, no matter how bad it is. Because honestly, we are in a terrible situation across the world. There's just so much, and it's just so vicious. It's not,
Yes.
not like the last war where people had guns, Now that's not it. Now they'll chop you up with a knife, and they'll do horrific things to you. It's very different to a normal, what we saw in those days as a war. It's like you're living with the Nazi situation all over again, but even worse. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank
I
you.
would like to ask, I see Franca still here. Franca, would you like to add something?
Yes.
Abhishek has also covered Syrian war, Azerbaijan and Armenian war. We can discuss about these war also with him some other time.
Sure.
Okay.
See,
Franca?
see, Nikki. Yes, Nikki. I am maybe the only one. I have appreciated so much the speech of the journalist, and I want to tell you that George was very tired, and he was obliged to leave this meeting. So I just want to tell you that 4 days before the beginning of the Ukraine war, one of the few people who wrote a petition was exactly me, because I was very worried about that situation, and I am more worried now because the third world is coming. Unfortunately, we can talk for hours, we can speak hours, but if our crazy leaders, European leaders, are so crazy, don't understand. Italy doesn't want to go to this war because I suppose our Prime Minister Meloni understood the difficulty. We are in big difficulties, economic difficulties. I just want to read a few lines about what I have written in that time. Because we need more Europe and less foreign interference, more European politics, cohesion, the search for our common roots. Who are we now, we Europeans, at the mercy of the winds of war? Towards which economic, social, geopolitical abyss are we heading? Never leave in foreign hands the fate of a Europe that was born on the ruins of two great wars, the world wars, which have already unleashed the economic interests of the two superpowers and the search for influencing strategies ever since. Let us reclaim our identity as the only European people, despite the diversity of so many cultures that make Europe unique for this very reason. Mythology brings us back to the cult of a nymph Europe, kidnapped by Zeus. Ancient Greek to the cult of beauty and philosophy. Now that the world seems to be in the grip of madness, unleashed also through false propaganda, through the media propaganda aimed at triggering wars, as the arms lobbies want. Well, now the time has come to make the voice of the European culture have allowed and to say enough to any interference, right or left. I speak as ambassador of peace on behalf of all pacifist movements, my association, Global Peace Let's Talk, and Renaissance Rinascimento Millennium 3, and above all on behalf of men of goodwill. My appeal is addressed to the power of the earth, to European rulers, to ordinary citizens. The world speaks only one voice, that of peace, the same as our Pope Francis. We appeal to it, confident that the power of the earth will pave the way for diplomacy. The European Union is a beacon of peace, born from the ashes of the Second World War, and we are witnesses of these times. It's up to us to become actors in European affairs and leave room only for diplomacy. Weapons are tools of death, and any pretext could become an unstoppable escalation. What are we waiting for, citizens of Europe and the world? Let's make our voices heard. Each war triggered only generates a death spiral. We therefore ask all people of goodwill to abandon all belligerent ideas and to tackle the crisis in Ukraine with the negotiation spirit. Sitting peacefully around the table is the only way to resolve any dispute. I wrote exactly this so many times, 3 or 4 years ago, at the beginning of this war. Nothing changed, only death. A lot of that, nothing else. And we are now talking. What can we do? This is my question. We cannot do anything.
Dr. Art Franca is from Italy, and she is a peace activist. She do lots of philanthropist work, and she is just she was explaining all this. So, Franca, if you don't mind, it is late. So, can we end the session now? Most of our members have also left.
No, there is Adam Ibige who wants our new ambassador of peace, who would like to tell something because she attended all this stuff. Okay, is it possible to leave a floor to Ada from Italy and Kenya?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
It's possible, Nikki?
A little bit.
Okay. Can I speak? Good evening to all. For me, this evening is very difficult to speak after the journalist because it's terrible and interesting what he says. Account is here, the notice from TV, and another thing is the voice of eyewitness, like a journalist this evening. And I use a word because I am a poet, I am a writer, I'm an amateur journalist for Italian Alessandria Today, but for me is this evening is very difficult to try right words to speak. And I think that's the very important thing for culture is to use the instrument of culture is use the words to promote peace, because the peace is the only thing that all people want. The peace is we need from all over the world, from our hearts, from our lips. I want to hear only one word: peace. We need only that. And this evening, I want to be a reflection about this, and I think that culture people and everyone can be a little bit different, using the power of the words for bridges, for every countries without boundaries, because the most important is brotherhood, is to love the brothers. That's my opinion. And so I think that's in I know that personally I want only a little drop in cultural panorama. I don't make a great thing, but is my daily goal. Use culture, use words to promote peace and human rights. Thank you to all.
Thank you, dear.
Bravo.
Thank you so much, everyone. Relgiza, a nice message. Thank you, Abhishek, Dr.
Appreciate.
Shaminaz, Nikki, Dr. Franca, and everyone present, Nuzhat Mustafa. So it was a nice session. Hope to see you all in the next Zoom meet that we would like to have in the coming days. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Gaurav.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, all of
Thank
you.
Thank you to all.
Ada and Shaminaz, thank you. Very interesting.
Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you to
Ciao.
all.
Thank you,
Thank you to
everyone.
all.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Dr. Shamanaz.
Nuzhat, you should have
Bye-bye.
also asked some question.
Sì.
Nuzhat, she is also a journalist. She should have asked some question. Okay, everyone. Good night. It is late in India. We'll meet again in some other. Nikki, thank you so much
You're
for always
welcome.
cooperating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye
Ciao,
bye.
baci.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, Nikki. Grazie di tutto.
Thank you. Thank
E
you to all.
Ada, brava, brava.
Thank,
Sei
thank you
stata
for this
brava.
meeting.
Perché
Thank
ho
you for this.
Ciao, chiudiamo perché devono
Sì.
andare. Ti ringrazio. Ciao.
Grazie mille.
Usciamo.